Hi, Tara. Hi, everybody. It's Laura May from Hot for Success. And I want to remind everyone that Hot for Success is all about the philosophy that we all have a burning desire, a goal inside of us. It's unique to us. It's an intense, passionate, and unwavering craving or motivation to achieve a specific goal or dream. So Earl Nightingale refers to this as a worthy ideal. So when we're meeting today, we get to meet with Tara, which is so great. I just want to dance as soon as I see you. We're discussing the quote, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So Tara, thank you so much for joining us today and talking with us about what your worthy ideal is, and that's what I want to dive right into.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yay! So what is your worthy ideal?
Grief has been a huge part of my life. And grief for the longest time felt like it kind of sucked me down and held me underwater, and to the point where I didn't know who I was. And as I've started taking steps in coming back to myself and finding joy and talking more openly about it, I've understood that more people need that same sort of support, honesty to be seen in their own grief. So really my worthy ideal is to normalize grief for others, for myself, because grief is a part of all of our lives in some way, shape, or form. It's not always losing someone, although that is a huge one, but it's divorce, it's friendship loss, it's your life not taking the path you thought it would be. Like, right, the ups and dives, the ups and downs, the dips and dives of life. But that we can learn to live with our grief and still live and carry on and find joy and happiness and find ourselves, like come back to ourselves, find a new version of who we are, because we're always evolving.
And so with the worthy ideal component, I mean, it's something that what I understand when we're on, as Napoleon Hill calls it, on the beam, when we're following that desire, are you waking up in the morning and knowing what you're going to do today? Like what your goal is? Are you following a goal right now?
I mean, it's not that I always know, but there has been a knowing in my gut, like, and I'm always pointing here because that is where that higher self knowing has been, that as I have started normalizing this more in my life and being open and honest about it online, just feeling that calling, that knowing that this has been meant. Like 2 years ago when I started on Fridays We Dance, which was just the simplest little joyful moment for me to be silly online, I felt silly saying I knew something more was coming out of it, because it was like, what 40-something-year-old woman is really thinking that something more in life is going to come out of posting a dance on Instagram? But I knew in my heart, and it's as I've continued to take steps ahead and just going with it, not entirely knowing, like I've just known that I'm called to be more be a support for people, but to normalize all of it and to just create spaces for honesty, create spaces for people to be seen, create spaces for people to be held. And that started in sharing my grief journey in the captions on these Friday dances.
Okay, so where are you posting your Friday dances for people who aren't aware?
They aren't aware. Of course they're not. On Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. So, yeah. And then, so you post them first thing on Friday, or is it
usually later? Around 7 o'clock on Friday morning.
Okay.
Everybody can kind of have a little Friday pick me up of joy with their coffee before they go to work. Yeah. But there was a Friday last summer, we were on holidays and we were at my dad's cottage, and there was I wanted to do a video there on a friend's pontoon, and I wasn't able to get there till later in the day. So I'd kind of posted, Friday dance is coming, she's a little late today. And people were doing the panic, like, what is it? She's not posting one today? This is like, I look forward to my little dose of joy on a Friday morning.
Yes. So you're receiving feedback as to what this is doing for folks.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was the feedback that I received initially where people would comment, like DM me or send me a text. Thank you for normalizing what you're saying about grief. I don't feel so alone in my own grief journey. Like, my so and so has been gone this long, and everything you've said has resonated for me. And I feel like I can just take a deep breath and pause. But I've normalized it and talked about it because I felt like that for so long in my own journey.
Mm.
Why am I still feeling this? It's been this long. You should have it together. And it's my daughter and my mom died a year apart. Like, I lost a child at birth, and a year later my mom died of cancer. And it was all while my kids were like, I was pregnant with our youngest. Like, it was a very hellish time in my life. And so if anyone else, like if you, Laura, were to say to me, this has gone on and oh my gosh, why am I still feeling this way? I'd be like, well, of course you are. You loved them. But I didn't give myself that same grace. Like, it's
Ah.
always like being so hard on, like, why can't you have it together? You should have it together by now.
So what I'm hearing is that the messaging that you heard within your own narrative, within your
Yeah.
own thinking narrative, pardon me, was that there's a timeline, that
Yeah.
there's a certain way to grieve,
Yeah.
that there are rules,
Yeah.
and that it's impersonal. So you needed to know what instead.
That it's okay to always be grieving because it is always love. Like, it is someone you've loved deeply and they're no longer in your life. Of course, you're going to always grieve them. So
So there's no time limit on it.
there isn't. And it's where I think society has made us feel like, and again, my parents' generation and older generations, I think it was a lot of, you got to pull up your big girl pants and you got to pretend that everything's okay. You got to carry on. You got to sweep it under the rug and you've got to put on the face for everyone else. And I learned to do that very quickly because other people felt so uncomfortable being around the girl who just lost a child and then just lost her mom. We don't want to, I was always a people pleaser. I didn't want to make people feel uncomfortable. So instead, I shoved it down on myself and pretended I was okay to make other people okay. And the more I did that, the more I left myself. To the point where I don't know who I am anymore. I felt like a shell of a human.
So the worthy ideal for you is that now that you know that there are a lot of fallacies around grief and grieving and
Yeah.
loss, then your goal, your mission, your purpose is to help other folks feel good within their grief as much as they can.
And always know that your grief is always a part of your life now. But that doesn't have to necessarily, as I say, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. That maybe sounds ridiculous when somebody says, I just lost my dad. How can this not? Like, I mean, again, you're fairly new in your own grieving journey again, right? It's a harsh reality, but we don't have to get rid of it to be able to continue to carry on in life. But part of us, I think, that version of us who we were with that person, that is always gone. And it's to normalize and realize that we don't have to go back to that version of ourselves because they're actually really no longer here. And it's finding that new version of ourselves and carrying our grief along with us.
Mm-hmm. The part of who you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you know? And I heard you refer to your heart, and I had a knowing. Let's talk a little bit more about knowing. How do you know that currently, in this current moment, that
Mm-hmm.
you're on the hot for success track, that you're following your burning desire, that you're following that ideal for now, based on what it's looking like for now? How do you know?
That's a really great question. Probably part of that was a grief retreat I just held the end of May.
Talk to me. What was this?
So it was one of the most beautiful days I have ever been a part of and witnessed and experienced in my entire life. I had a 4 other facilitators with me for the day. So we were at the one lady's home. She has a beautiful country property, trees, nature, like you felt like you were out in the boonies, and she was in this small little hamlet is where their home is. The birds, like just nature was screaming that day. We had Mother Nature cooperated weather-wise. We sat around a campfire to start the day. But there were 14 women that showed up, and it was the biggest honor, I think, of my life professionally so far. There was nothing tangible for these women to see. Like this hadn't happened before. It was the first retreat I'd created, hosted, and they took a leap on trusting me. Some people knew me, most people didn't. But they took a leap on knowing I need something for me to continue to support me in my grief. We started around the campfire, and everybody did introductions, myself included, and we were all just a sobbing mess. Those like I said, everybody's nerves were, we're all a little nervous. And so to start, and can be a little cheeky, like in my Instagram stuff, I'll always, there's the raw, honest, and heaviness of grief, but then I always throw in a little humor and once in a while a little F-bomb. But I told everybody to plant their feet on the ground, take in a deep breath, and then I had them put their hands like this, and I said, now straighten your effing crowns, because we're all queens. And we all had a good laugh. It lightened the air that we're like, okay, we're all a little nervous, and that's okay, because we don't know what we're all getting into. But everybody just went around and kind of shared a little bit of who they were, why they were there. We all shared tears together, and everybody felt the safety and the vulnerability to do it, which again was the biggest honor. I had my stepsister joined us. She's a Reiki practitioner. So she had her Reiki table set up under a tree with wind chimes for the day that I just said, whenever you want to scoot over, have a little treatment, have at her. So with Angie's introduction, like she got very emotional, and she just said, I love that my life has led me to Tara. She goes, but it's through heartbreak that Tara's had to experience that we've come together. She goes, I never met Tara's mom, Tracy, but I feel like I know her through her. And my sister was there as well to participate in the day. And she'd even said, I came here to support we have a little group chat we call the sissies. She goes, I came here to support my sissies. She goes, but my mom died too. Another friend she's a psychic medium, but she does the most beautiful guided meditations in sound bowls. So we had a guided meditation and stuff at the end of the day. And then she, throughout the day, if she was receiving messages from people's loved ones, she'd go sneak up to them and share a little nugget that they maybe needed to know. And Karen, the lady's house we were at, she's a momentum coach and a spiritual life coach and personal trainer, but her motto is move with what moves you, not like move your body to lift heavy and hard. It's like learn to listen to your body, which it was the most beautiful when we listen to our body with what it wants, because our bodies are always talking to us. It's just, do we slow down enough to listen to them? So after introductions, we did a bit of movement. Karen had channeled a message from the land that day where the land had just said, I promise you, you will be held. Whatever you need to release, I will hold you and carry you today. It was beautiful. I've recently gotten my grief coach certification. Just in this knowing, I was like, okay, I know I have experience, but I also know I need to have some sort of certification behind this to support me. And the tools I've learned in that certification have been phenomenal for me. So I led them in some visualization things where sometimes it's hard to name our emotions or to name how we're feeling. So if we can have a metaphor or a visualization for what we're actually feeling. We made candles. We had a lady there that makes candles, and she talked about how scent can trigger memory. If we closed our eyes and we went, all could choose a scent for our candle for the day, which again, it was like, as we did all these exercises throughout the day, different people at different moments, just the tears came and they felt safe to just let them flow. I had a woman there that she said, and she was crying at one point, and I said, do you need anything? Can I give you a hug? Because I am a hugger. And she goes, I will take the hug.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I was never allowed to grieve. She goes, we were never taught to grieve growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost a lot of people that I was never allowed to grieve, and it's all bubbling over. It just feels so good to be with people who are allowing it and accepting and encouraging emotions to be here.
Wow.
Yeah. And in Liv's meditation, when we were there, I literally felt like it was almost like we were in this, like I was in a bowl, and it was like the ground turned into, it was like Mother Earth, but she had her wings spread out and just held us all in her wingspan. It was, again, one of the most beautiful moments to just allow myself to drop into. And to end it all, I said it wouldn't be an event with me if we didn't have a little joy, a little on Fridays we dance. A friend of mine a couple of years ago had lost her husband, and so she has been, I'm finding joy in my life. She gifted me what we lovingly now call a car tambourine. It's just a tiny little tambourine that fits in your car console for when those songs come on that you really want one, and you just take it. So I gifted everyone in little bags these car tambourines, and so we danced and swayed, just moved how our bodies wanted to move to Three Little Birds by Bob Marley at the end. And the laughter and the smiles, and to see where we started the day to where we ended, to see the video the next day of just the laughter and joy at the end of the day. I'm like, what a full circle, beautiful moment. Like, two things can be true at once, always. And being in that day, doing all of this with everyone and just holding that space. Aside from becoming a mother, I don't think anything has ever felt more right in my life. So that was a very long answer to your question.
Yes, but where did you feel it in your body that it felt right?
My core, like in core. I always get my chakras wrong.
Your solar plexus?
My solar plexus, yeah.
Okay, and so you're just really aligned and you could feel it there.
Good.
Yeah.
It just felt really beautiful.
So
very natural.
Is part of your worthy ideal to continue to work on goals to bring forth more opportunities for folks to have a full circle day like that?
Yeah, we planned another one for September 20th.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Good. And are you bringing people in from all over? Or are you traveling to do so? Or are you local?
For this one, we're going to keep it in the same location as we were.
Okay. And your location in the world is?
I'm close to Stratford, Ontario.
Okay. Canada. Okay.
So for this one, we're still keeping local. It'll be fairly similar. A few minor changes to what worked and what didn't work for the day. But in the worthy ideal of where I want to go, like, I would love to begin to be able to get to a point where I can travel with these, where I can have one day, multi-day.
Yes.
Because again, I think it's for all, but right now my focus has truly been on women, because I think especially in motherhood, in the working world, where we tend to lose ourselves so easily in doing everything that society thinks we should be doing.
So it's a one day then?
Right now it's a one day. Yeah.
Okay.
And even when I had announced it and had decided to do it, I didn't even totally have all the pieces together, but everything kind of came as I just kept taking little steps forward. It was the realization of I wanted to introduce people to all these different modalities of things that had helped me. So the mindfulness, the meditation, Reiki, energy work, again, body movement. For me, yoga has been such a huge thing for me, to be able to be aligned with my body and the movement. Like, my body craves it and I'm not always consistent with it. I get caught up in the busyness, but when I stop enough to do it, I'm just like, can sigh. But all these things, they were able to bring me back to myself. I didn't realize, I think because it had always been how disconnected from myself I've pretty much had always been.
Mm.
And being able to find that alignment, that connection. As soon as I was able to start doing that, come back to myself, I was able to finally allow my grief to surface. But it was like, it literally was probably 6 or 7 years into my journey until I went, I don't know who I am. And I started taking these steps, because before that, if someone I remotely knew passed away, that was an opportunity for my floodgates to open for me to actually feel my grief. It
Mm.
wasn't really for this newly deceased person. It was an opportunity for me to feel it. And once I allowed myself to feel things when they started surfacing for me, someone could die, I could go to a funeral, and I didn't turn into the blubbering mess that I was, because I had allowed my stuff to surface. And it still is, it's an evolution of things.
And so, speaking of evolution, in some of the conversation we had before we started to record today, you talked about the worthy ideal being, and I talk about it as well, being current.
Yeah.
That it's possible that it can shift and change. And what I'm hearing is that you've shifted and changed quite a bit in your life.
So
And
much.
so the worthy ideal, the current focus of success or your goal can be current. And yet, is there a way that you give yourself permission to be open for it to pivot or to expand, or however?
Again, it's to continue, for me, it's to continue dreaming of where I want to be able to just, it's this big expansiveness that I have. So I've never really been one to keep myself pegged in a hole of, this is how you are, this is how you have to be, this is who you have to stay the rest of your life, because it would be kind of sad if we put ourselves in that box, put those walls up around us.
Mhm.
And it's not always knowing how we're going to get to that next level, but or to that next version, maybe is the best way to say it, to where the career path, where the life path, where the ideal path is going to take us. But
Mm.
it's to know that it's always possible and it's always okay. And it's quite frankly beautiful to allow ourselves that grace to know that it can pivot and change and morph as we continue to grow and learn more. What I know to be true right now is not the same as what I knew to be true even a year ago.
Mhm. Mhm. About yourself,
About
about
myself and
about
about my capacity to do things.
Mhm.
To
Yes.
believe in myself, to know that, hey, you can do this.
Yes. And I want to.
And I want to.
Yeah. Because I find that that folks really want to ask the questions about how to find, when they're looking at their ideal life and what they really want to be doing. But then there tends to be this stop start, or can be a stop start, because there are rules around it,
Right.
or the limitations can be prescribed or contrived from something outside of them. And it's not always easy. You actually have to
Oh, it's
go,
hard.
yeah. And so, and it's risky. It's risk taking to follow
Mm.
what you really want to be doing. So another way of understanding the worthy ideal is that it's like a blueprint in the heart that has a code that only you can read. So
Nice way to put it.
can you, from the idea that you have a code in your heart, would you say that your code has given you indicators it's important for you to follow this grief coach journey?
Yes, because this sounds almost twisted as I say it, but it's the joy it brings me in seeing others or hearing others just feel seen and safe and comforted in their own journey. Um, to know that it's not lost, that it's needed.
And
Um,
joy is a level of consciousness that is expansive.
It is.
So,
And I think when I was back in my state of, I don't know who I am, like when you look at frequencies and everything and different vibrations, like grief is really low. And it was that, okay, like this is close to jealousy and envy and some of those icky feelings that we can have. And it's like, how can I pull, even though that grief is always going to be there, how can I pull up to joy?
yes.
But it's that, I think, recognition that, again, I go to my hands and the balls and the balancing scale, that two things can be true at once. We can still carry grief and we can still hold joy. I
Yes.
wrote a post yesterday morning
Mm.
that I'd shared on Facebook, and it was this week. It's the last week of school, seeing friends, seeing people posting pictures of, their kids graduating, whether that be from grade 8, whether that be from grade 12. And it just reminded me of being in the thick of that last year. My youngest son graduated grade 8 on the Tuesday evening. And while we're there and watching him on the stage, all of a sudden felt like a leg sweep where I was almost like trying to catch my breath and not go into a panic attack of like, why is this grief hitting me now? Like I felt like I was going to start not crying from joy and pride, like literally I was fighting back sobs. And I went, oh, it's because there should be a little sister here watching her brother on stage. And there should also be a Nana here. And I could picture the smile on my mom's face, and it really started to take me out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this hitting me? And then it was in the same breath, I'm like, of course it is. So then going in 2 nights later, the Thursday night, my oldest son graduated grade 12, and he ended up receiving a number of awards that we were all very surprised by. And seeing him on stage, even he's a very quiet, he's such a beautiful old soul. But even he couldn't hold back his smile as they were reading the description of the awards he got. And I stood there taking pictures, smiling with pride, and tears were just streaming down my face. And I knew a couple friends that had kids graduating, big graduation moments happening last night. And I called it sneak attack grief. I called it a very highly technical term.
Yeah.
It's like where it kind of like,
pulls
it's not
up,
like,
it's ready to come up.
It's like,
yeah. We don't get to control when it's ready to come up.
No, it doesn't. But it was just normalizing that these moments are going to happen in all the big moments of their life because there's someone that's always missing from it.
And don't push it back down, right? Let it come out.
Let it come out. And in my grief coaching stuff, like there was a unit on teaching different, again, toolbox techniques to support yourself leading into that. And one of that, and I've encouraged a few people, it's writing a letter to your loved one, or even like I just find when you allow yourself to pen to paper, when I journal, some stuff that blubbers out, I'm like, well, I didn't know that was there. Right? Like you can get it out, or even like take a moment where if you're driving in your car, talk to them. Talk to your loved one past and just say, this event's like this graduation's coming up and you should be here. And I'm actually really angry that you're not, because you should be and you're missing out. Whatever feels right, but give yourself the grace, the time to do that you can get some of that grief out in that moment. Not that it's not going to surface then, but I think I know it does, because even knowing what I felt the Tuesday evening in Quinn's graduation, I allowed myself the grace to get some of those tears out. I could go into Grayson's graduation and not be fighting a panic attack surfacing, that I could still have the tears, but they weren't bubbling out because I'd allowed them already to surface. So I could be present.
Yes.
And still feeling it all.
Yeah. Wow. So as you move into this year, it sounds like you have a retreat coming up. That's really exciting. Is there anything else that you have planned or that you want the audience to know before we go to you telling us how we can reach you?
We're in this evolution of taking steps, not really knowing where they're going, and continuing to dream. This year I'd like to get on more podcasts. I'd like to start a bit more writing.
And you've written that down in your happy book, in your joy journal?
Joy journal.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you have to put a container around it, right? Just structure around that, and then you can work toward it. Not that it can't happen without it, but it sure does help.
But it helps to have that accountability piece of writing it down and having something to like a focus.
Yeah, a focus. And so
even let's talk about what you wrote in your joy journal when you and I found each other online. What did you write?
Well, when it comes to my goal, or what do you mean?
But even I remember you saying when we had met for coffee, you said, I wrote in my joy journal that Tara and I are going to dance.
Yes.
And we went and danced, and it was so fun. It was so great.
I know, it was so great. And I'm so excited to have that. And how would people be able to find that video and you?
Well,
and
share that one again in my I'll share that one again in my stories when this
episode please.
But on Instagram, Tara Porter Official.
Okay, love it.
On Facebook, it's Tara Porter. I always find Facebook a little bit harder to.
Do you have a business page or anything on Facebook, or just personal page?
It is a business page. And actually, I keep forgetting, my grief coaching business, I've called Magnolia Rising. So I do have a website now. It's magnoliarising.ca.
That's beautiful. I love the name of that.
And that came from so our Harper, our daughter, was born December 28th. And while I was off on my mat leave that spring, we lived in an older part of town, and there were some really big, beautiful magnolia trees that bloomed that spring. And I found those gave me life that year. That renewal does come. Life continues on, but there was something about those magnolia blooms, the beauty in them, that I started to feel life inside of me again. And it's a magnolia branch. Like, it's these blooms come out of these branches that are, they come. There's always new hope in the spring. So this past retreat was called Magnolia Rising Renewal Retreat. It was the renewal in ourselves.
Wow. And I'm so glad we brought that in at the end here, because the end of the beginning of the end of the beginning, and the constant renewal.
Yeah.
Because people need to know that you've named your business Magnolia Rising, and that's part of your worthy idea. It's part of your divine purpose.
Exactly.
Part of that burning desire, as it were. You've put it all together in such a beautiful, honoring way for people. I'm so glad that we've had an opportunity to learn more about you today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
And I love it. I love all of it. And I love that you're following that intuition, you're following that internal heart, as it were, and you're checking your code. Okay, what's it say today? What's the code today? And no one's going to come along and tell you and really know for you what it is you need to be doing. So absolutely, advice is great, but ultimately it's us that knows inside.
And that's where I've really learned to, I think from losing my mom so early in her life, and in my child rearing years where I didn't have a mom to go to, I looked outside for others to tell me how to do things instead of trusting myself. And I'm finally coming back to trusting me and knowing that it's okay. We kind of learn through mistakes too. So it's not always going to be the perfect path to where Magnolia Rising is going. But I know as long as I continue to take one step and the other, something in any decision I make is something I'm going to need, whether it be a learning lesson or a thriving lesson.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, we're going to reach out to you for sure. And thank you so much for being part of Hot for Success today. And we're going to dance. We're going to dance more. I come up your way pretty often, so next time I'm up there, look out. We're going to dance.
I've got to head your way.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.